Today we're going to be going through, as I said, Lightning wallets, specifically Blixt wallet, which I have just discovered myself recently and is incredible. It's already one of my favorite Lightning wallets. We'll be speaking with Hampus, who is the creator / active developer on the project, and diving in, going through his background, his thinking behind Blixt and Lightning wallets in general, and then walking through the future of the Lightning ecosystem as it relates to wallets, mobile wallets more specifically. So let's dive in. Hampus, how's it going?
Going good. Thank you for having me.
You actually can run Blixt wallet on iOS and also on Android. And
yes.
Yeah, so I'm going to post it. I'm going to add it to the tweet thread for the tweet I sent out earlier. Check it out. One thing that I love about this page is that it has an interactive simulation of what it's like to use the actual wallet. I haven't seen that before.
Oh yeah, that's a really funny one. If you go to the Blixt wallet, that's BLIXT wallet.com. There is a demo or an interactive app in the actual page, and that is actually the original source code of the app. It's just compiled. It's just built for the web. So what you're seeing on the screen is actually Blixt wallet. It's just that it's running inside the browser. Now, of course, it's not running a full-fledged Lightning wallet, but it's just for demo purposes, so you can try Blixt out without actually downloading the wallet first. So it's quite a neat little thing that I made, and yeah,
that's amazing.
I've not seen anyone else do it. It's a unique thing that Blixt has there, that you can just try it out immediately. You don't need to install the app; you can just try it beforehand, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's absolutely incredible. So just to repeat back, you actually have the source code compiled and running in the browser. So it's not a simulation. It is actually the source code for Blixt wallet.
It's the exact same code that the actual wallet is running.
That is so cool.
Nothing. I was amazed myself when I actually got it to work, because it's just mind-blowing. I didn't expect it. I didn't expect myself to work, but it did. So here we are.
All right. Well, now everybody has to check this out. It's too fucking cool. So one of the things that, as I said, I do want to hear your background and how you got interested in Blixt and how that came about. But I also want to just give a little bit more context for the audience. But there's a lot of different, even taking one step further back, the Lightning Network is a technology that is built on top of the Bitcoin on-chain or layer 1 system. And it is built on top of this sound money, Bitcoin layer 1. And then basically it allows you to open essentially multiple, let's say 2 of 2 multi-sig contracts with a bunch of other stuff mixed in. And then you have this large network of what are called routing nodes, and you can send payments throughout the network. And you don't have to know anything about routing nodes or how to run them. If you don't want to, you can download an app like Blixt Wallet or Breeze Wallet or any other number of wallets, and they abstract away the complexity. And then the end result is you can send Bitcoin essentially instantaneously and for very low fee. So the whole idea of, oh, you can't buy a coffee with Bitcoin, total bullshit. This used to be a more contentious point, but obviously an entire country is using the Lightning Network to be able to take final settlement of Bitcoin essentially instantaneously. McDonald's is using the Lightning Network. Every major chain, Starbucks is using the Lightning Network in El Salvador. Every major chain is using it, both small and large. It's pretty incredible. So when you have these mobile wallets, they all function differently, right? You can have custodial wallets, non-custodial wallets. That is to say, where you are in full custody of your funds. And there's only a few non-custodial Lightning wallets out there. And Blixt stands apart even from those because it implements features before most other wallets. And I think there are still things that other wallets have not caught up with. And the other thing that's amazing to me about Blixt is that previously I thought of Breeze as the most effective non-custodial Lightning wallet solution that would give you insight into exactly what was happening. But Blixt actually takes it a step further, and the interface allows you to interact with this Lightning wallet very simply and straightforwardly, but it also gives you insight into exactly what's happening behind the scenes, and even more than Breeze, gives you full control over interacting with your channels in a very intuitive way. So it's quite remarkable.
Yeah, I'm not trying to hide things. Like in the normal operation of Blixt, you can just get up and running fairly quickly and easily. But I'm not trying to hide the things for the user. Like it's all there if you want to get into the nitty-gritty. So I'm not hiding stuff. It's just, yeah. But it's still not targeted towards advanced users. It's still targeted towards newbies and stuff. It's just that when you want to, or if you want to, you can dive deeper. It is not a necessity, so to say.
I love it. I love it. So let's go through sort of what is your Bitcoin story? How did you get involved with Bitcoin? How did you get involved with the Lightning Network? And how did you get involved with Blixt?
Sure. Yeah. So I think I heard about Bitcoin fairly early, but everyone has heard about Bitcoin early, but never got into Bitcoin until late 2013, like just before the big Mt. Gox crash, basically. And then I just started buying Bitcoin because I thought it was a cool technology, like that you can have a digital token that you can't duplicate. Because I thought that was amazing. So I'm not coming from the libertarian viewpoint, although I'm aligned with that point of view, and I've learned through the years like what sound money is through Reddit and Twitter and so on. So I'm mostly coming from a technological background. I just started buying Bitcoin and read about it and learned, and it took a while until I actually understood what the blockchain is. It's not easy concepts, but eventually I got a good grasp of it. Started learning about it more and got involved pretty much in the SegWit controversy and started supporting the USF movement. And then when Lightning kicked off, I was really into Lightning, of course. I love like the concept of having cheap and fast payments. And then one day in 2019, I just said to myself that I wanted to make my own wallet, because that's something I have had in mind for years, to make a Bitcoin wallet. And the reason being I wanted to make the most user-friendly and easy to use wallet available. So I just started one day in April, I think, and started working on the wallet, like Blixt. So here we are, basically. We've come a long way, I think. So I think that's it.
I love it. What made you pursue the specific approach that you've taken with Blixt? Did that just occur naturally, or
can occur
naturally?
A deliberate decision? In some way naturally, but in some way not. I don't like when wallets and applications in general hide too much. But it's like the philosophy of Blixt is not to be like in your way, but you should be able to do stuff if you want to. So that's like the philosophy I'm trying to follow. And I think I managed fairly good with Blixt. It could be better. I'll probably add some kind of power user mode and then have a normal mode, so you don't have all the different stuff there. But as it stands right now, that's how I built Blixt. I think that even power users and advanced users, they want to have convenient features such as an LSP node, like a node that connects you to the network automatically and stuff. Like everyone enjoys these things. But then if you want to, you can get into the nitty-gritty and just open channels yourself, like manually in Blixt. So it's like having the cake and eat it too. That's if that makes sense. That's how I roll.
It totally does. And I think you have succeeded at that wildly in a way that I haven't seen before. As I said, again, for the audience, the Lightning Network works basically, nodes are set up, right? And you have Bitcoin Core, which is the software that enforces the rules that are agreed upon in the Bitcoin network. And it's, very decentralized, censorship resistant. It's why a country like China, quote unquote, banning Bitcoin for the 9th time doesn't have any particular effect, because it is a distributed network all over the world. And you have Bitcoin Core, and then separately you have an implementation of the Lightning protocol. And there's multiple different implementations. There's, Eclair, C Lightning, and LND are the most popular ones right now. But they all sit on top of Bitcoin Core, and they add this additional functionality, the ability to open channels with other Lightning nodes. And then you can send payments directly to those Lightning nodes. But much more significantly, the way the network is set up, you don't actually have to have a direct connection to another node in order to send or receive payments from it. Instead, as I was saying earlier, it's like a spider web. And you can, if I want to send a payment to someone that's 10 hops away, my node will calculate the most cost-effective route, and then we'll send that payment bouncing through the network until it hits its final destination. And there's 3 different types of nodes, essentially. Or not even nodes. There's 3 different types of users, very broadly speaking, right? There's somebody who just wants to use the Lightning Network because it is very, very fast and because it has very low fees. And that's somebody you can just download a mobile wallet and be interacting with it immediately. There's merchants who are rendering services and then collecting fees. And then there are routing nodes, which are basically like people who are like, I want to run the nuts and bolts, the guts of this technology. And there's a lot of us who are interested in doing that because it's fun. It's super interesting. It's like a real-time strategy game where you're adjusting your fees in order to incentivize specific routes to be taken or not taken, managing your channels and all that kind of thing. But you don't have to do that in order to interact with the Lightning Network, as I was saying earlier. And basically, Blixt lets you interact with that complexity if you want to, and you can see it very compelling way, or you can abstract all that away and just have it automatically taken care of for you. So that's what Hampus was referencing.
Yeah, exactly. You can go in easy, and then you can get into the heavy stuff later on if you want to, so to say.
Yep, absolutely. I'm also curious. My perception is that you've focused a lot of energy on implementing newer functionality and features ahead of other wallets. And I wanted to talk about that. Where does that come from? What's your impetus for that?
Yeah, I've been pretty heavily involved in the LNURL specification and stuff.
Oh,
and what LNURL is, for those who don't know, it's like a protocol or a set of protocols to enhance the experience of using Bitcoin. So let's say that you want to withdraw money from an exchange. Then you have an LNURL protocol that helps you withdraw from that exchange. And how you do that is just that you scan a QR code, just like you will for paying someone. So it's connecting you to do different stuff with Lightning and Bitcoin. So I've been pretty involved in the specification writing process there. And yeah, it's why I'm so involved is because I'm very enthusiastic of improving user experience. And one of the ways to do that is to be involved in the specification of things, like improving and creating new specs and stuff. So that's why maybe I'm not there number one, number two in the most feature-fledged Lightning wallets regarding LNURL. It's probably me or Anton, the creator of the protocol itself, in his wallet. So that's why I'm so involved, because it's such a great way to enhance and provide good user experience.
What is the name of?
Sorry?
I was going to say, what is the name of Anton's wallet?
It's called, his new wallet is called Simple Bitcoin Wallet.
Got it.
It's usually called Bitcoin and Lightning, but he has moved on to a new version of it. So that's something you definitely should check out.
Oh, I definitely.
It's called the Simple Bitcoin Wallet.
Okay. What are the differences between that and Blixt?
He's pursuing some others strategies, like hosted channel concepts, which is like a semi-custodial solution and stuff. But it's, yeah. And also he's only Android. He's only where I am for both iOS and Android at the moment, and probably more platforms in the future. So there are some differences there. It's a good wallet. I use it sometimes as well when I'm not using Blixt. Yeah.
I'm going to download it right now. Interesting. What are some of the? I will say I'm extremely excited about LNURL. I've only recently started really playing around with it, but again, for the audience. Right now in the bolt11 spec, which is what I would say all, if not most Lightning wallets use, you have to generate an invoice in order to receive a payment. So if I want to get paid by Hampus, I have to open up my wallet and say, this person's going to pay me 20,000 sats. And then I have to either send the alphanumeric character or the code to Hampus, or I have to basically show him a QR code and then he scans it and then he can send me sats. Now, there's kind of ways around that. There's like key sending and stuff like that, but it's kind of beside the point. But with LNURL, it adds a bunch of really interesting additional functionality. And Hampus, can you give us at a high level what that additional functionality in terms of?
It's really 4 different protocols in LNURL, but we can start with the one you touched on. Like you have one called LNURL Pay, which is like it's a protocol that in the end results in a bolt11 code. So you can, if I send you an LNURL Pay code, that can be reused as many times as possible because it will just keep generating new bolt11 invoices for you. So that's a way to get around this limitation of Lightning invoices only being usable one time. But with LNURL Pay, it also adds some other neat things that at least I enjoy. Like you can provide an image of the actual product that you're buying, that you provide a good user experience to see what you're buying. You can also have like authentication, seeing which site you're actually interacting with. If you buy on shop.com, you will see that in Blixt that, okay, this payment is going to shop.com. So you know that you have a secure connection to the actual buyer. And that's important for like when you're doing transactions to known parties. Like in this case, I just want to buy some shoes somewhere, for example. Then I can use like this trusted party. But it also lays the foundation for something called the Lightning address, which has been really popular in the recent months. And just to explain what Lightning address is that it's the same format as an email address. But instead of sending email to the recipient, you're actually sending money through Lightning. So I have a Lightning address called Hampus at blixtwallet.com. So if you type that one into Blixt, it will send me sats via that address, basically. And that builds the top of the whole LNURL protocol, if that makes sense.
Yeah, can you go into a little bit more detail there? How does that actually work? And how robust would you consider that? How decentralized?
I think it's very robust in the sense that LNURL Pay is robust, because what happens is that when a wallet sees a Lightning address, what it does is just convert that to a URL. And then it makes a request to that URL. And what you get back there is the LNURL Pay response, like the normal flow, so to say. So that's how it works. Now, I have some of my own problems with that, because I don't want this to be locked into LNURL Pay per se, because Lightning address could also use offers potentially, or even Keysend. So it doesn't need to be locked into LNURL Pay, if that makes sense.
All right, Bitcoiners, I want to tell you about our newest sponsor. This show is brought to you by Ledn.io. I have been super, super impressed with the guys over at Ledn. I've actually known the co-founders, Adam and Mauricio, for a very long time. I've had the pleasure to watch them build Ledn up from a tiny, tiny startup to now a super impressive institutional grade Bitcoin and crypto lender. Y'all, I'm so impressed with these guys. They are offering some of the best rates out there. I don't think anyone even comes close to touching them. You can get 6.1% APY on your first 2 Bitcoin that you deposit into Ledn interest accounts, and you can get 8.5% on USDC deposits. I mean, I know all the competitors. They're not even close. If you're going to put your crypto and your Bitcoin into an interest account, Ledn is by far the best. And on top of that, like I said, these guys are hardcore Bitcoiners, and they know the products and the services that Bitcoiners want and appreciate. They come up with B2X. It allows you to put your Bitcoin in, they leverage it up, and you can, with one click of the mouse, get twice the exposure to Bitcoin. So if you're super bullish, Ledn has you covered with a super, super easy way to get leverage with B2X. And then on top of that, they know that Bitcoiners care about your reserves. They know that Bitcoiners don't like under reserved and not full reserved financial institutions. So they are pushing the frontier in transparency in the digital asset lending space. And they are the first digital asset lender to do a full proof of reserves and proof of attestation through a Mariano LLC, a public accounting firm. So the Ledn guys, they know what Bitcoiners like. They are legit. I encourage you guys to check them out. Do your own research and go to Ledn.io. That is LEDN.io and learn more.
Can you give an explanation of what the difference between Keysend and Offers is?
Oh, getting to the deep stuff. Yeah, sure. Like
at a high level.
Quick, Keysend works is that it kind of depends on we need to explain how invoices work then as well. Because if you do a normal Lightning invoice, the receiver is generating a secret that it holds for itself. And then it makes a hash of that and put that in the invoice. And then it sends the invoice to the payer. And yeah, basically what happens is that the payer builds a path to this receiver. When that happens, when that's done, the receiver is revealing his secret. And that's how the normal Lightning flow payment goes, basically. Just briefly on that, it's a really difficult concept. But then what happens with the Keysend then is that the sender is actually generating the secret itself. And then it just encrypts that data and sends that over to, it makes a path to the receiver. And then it encrypts a message to the receiver, which is the actual secret. And upon seeing the secret, the receiver will just continue the normal Lightning payment flow, basically. So instead of the receiver creating the secret, the payer is. I'm not really a pedagogic person, but it's a little difficult to explain here.
No, that makes sense.
I'll just get the grasp of it at least. What's cool about Offers then is that it kind of makes Lightning to a more generic onion network. It makes it like Tor. Like in Tor, you're using onion routing to talk to different servers and whatnot and services. And what Offer is doing is that it's using the Lightning network as a more generic Tor network. So what happens is that the sender wants to pay the receiver. So it just sends a message through the Lightning network to the receiver and asks for an invoice. Then the receiver will send back the invoice through Lightning Network to the payer. So it never, you never leave the Lightning Network anymore, which has its benefit.
Wow, I actually didn't realize that distinction. That is really cool.
Yes, it's kind of cool. It's kind of neat that you stay in Lightning all the time, because right now you have to give the invoice in another medium. You need to either print it out or you send it through an email or send it through a text message or somewhere. In some way, the actual invoice needs to get to the sender. So it keeps everything inside Lightning, which has its benefits. There's one thing I want to say about that, though, that it will be better if you will pay for the actual onion routed message. Like this will be for free, so it's like Tor. But right now in Lightning, everything is like every routing node is getting paid for each payment. But with Offers, that ceases to be the case then. So that's like my complaint about the current proposal, because I would like it to be paid just like every payment is paid, if that makes sense. So that's a critique I have regarding the current Offer proposal. And I know this is not like something new or something unheard of or unknown, but I guess we'll eventually get there.
And Offers is part of bolt12, correct?
Yeah, exactly. It's synonymous. It's the bolt12 is more boring name. Like Offers is fun. Is easier. Fun.
Oh, literally, the term Offers encompasses all of bolt12.
I think that's the case. Yes, that's my understanding of it. Yeah.
Very cool. So, what are are there any aspects of LNURL that Blixt does not currently support?
Basically, support everything in LNURL.
Yeah.
But there are some things that is difficult to do with as a non-custodial wallet, like a licensed server. That is, there is like a ping protocol where let's say you have funds in an exchange. Like you can withdraw those funds via LNURL withdraw. But there is also an extension to LNURL withdraw that lets the exchange can ping a server when there is funds available. So let's say that I send you some sats on a service. That service can then ping back to your wallet, basically. That's the kind of the point, at least. And those things are not. It's not so easy to implement as a non-custodial wallet, but I have some ideas to do that. Yeah, if that makes sense. Let's see. I need to check the actual list of things because I think I got pretty much everything. There are some new stuff regarding the Lightning address that I want to develop as well. Because right now you can send two Lightning addresses, but there is no way to receive yet in Blixt. So that's something I'm also working on fixing. So you can have your own Lightning address goes to your Blixt wallet, basically.
Wait, I'm sorry. You said? Can you repeat the last sentence again? I missed it. You said right now you can do X, but you can't do Y.
Yeah, you can send wallet. You can send to a Lightning address, but you cannot receive through a Lightning address in Blixt. Like you don't have p@blixtwallet.com right now. You can only send payments, not receive.
I see. Interesting.
That's something I'm currently working on addressing as well, because that will be really neat. Because right now, most of the wallets that has received support, or actually all of the services that have received support, they are custodial wallets. So it's like an uphill battle here for non-custodial wallets to be able to do this.
Got it. Benjamin, you requested to speak. I pulled you up. Did you have a specific question?
Yes, I have a question for Hampus. Yeah, I'm a fellow developer, but mostly focusing on traditional iOS app development. And my question to you is, Hampus, what advice do you have for someone who wants to get into Lightning development? And what resources have been useful to you besides mastering the Lightning Network, the book? Do you have any advice for someone wanting to get into space and start building stuff?
That's a good question. I will say that it's very important to get familiar with the implementation that you're going to use. Let's say you use C Lightning or LND. It helps a lot to actually understand how it works in and out if you're going to use one. Because usually when you do Lightning stuff, you're going to use one of the popular implementations instead of doing it yourself. You can do that as well, but it will take too much time. So get familiar with how a Lightning implementation works and how you use their API and stuff. Because when I started using Lightning, I went with the C Lightning implementation, and I learned how I interact with it to be able to do services and stuff. The other thing I will say is that there are some very good resources available for developers, at least in the LND sort of space. There is like a Slack group that you can join where we have several channels for developers that can ask questions and get feedback and help on regarding different things. So that's also a thing I will recommend doing, like join the different communities out there. One of the communities I'm in is the LND Slack group, which is it's pretty huge and pretty popular to get into that. Yeah, I don't know. It's so difficult. It's just read a lot about it, Lightning and stuff. I just went head in basically with Lightning, and and also there is a mailing list as well, but it's pretty noisy nowadays. I will probably stay out actually, but join the different communities available at least.
One thing I would say.
All right. Yeah, thank you, Hampus.
I would definitely recommend just diving in. I think it's the best way to learn.
I think so too.
Yeah, break some stuff, lose some sets. It'll all be.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I did. I just installed C Lightning and just made like the first time I made something with Lightning, I installed C Lightning. I made a simple little page that shows the QR code for an invoice. And then I got some sats from that, basically. Taking the small steps, I'll say. That's my advice, at least. And reading the Mastering Lightning, as you said, that's definitely a huge thing, a good thing to do. Like, it will help a lot.
Or alternatively, you can do what a lot of us have done in PlebNet, which is to just ape in and just be hashtag reckless.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm joking. Don't actually risk any significant funds, but also, break some stuff.
Too late.
Oh man, that fear when you first make your first on-chain transaction, and then the fear when you first set up your Lightning node and you open your first channel and then realize you totally fucked it up and it's way too small, and then you have to close it out and open a new one, and then you think I'll never make that mistake again, and then of course you make it hundreds of more times.
That's part of the journey, man.
Absolutely. No, but all joking aside, this is an incredible time to be experimenting with Lightning and running your own node and everything related to it, because on-chain fees are so cheap right now.
Definitely. And PlebNet and all others really helpful to get.
And I must say, it's so exciting to see how fast the network is growing. Look at the growth. 500 Bitcoin added to the network in just 17 days, or how much is it? It's growing. Hockey stick graph right there. Yeah.
I'll take it. All right, cool. So let's talk about, I'm curious, actually, I have a very specific implementation question for you. So is it possible to use LNURL Auth to basically, I guess you can by design use it to uniquely identify users, and the only things the user has to have is a Lightning node, a neutrino node, a full node or a neutrino node like Blixt. Yeah. Can you use, as I'm saying this, I'm realizing I'm answering my own question, but what I was going to say, is it possible to use LNURL Auth to uniquely identify users and then basically have generated withdraw QR codes that are tied to a user? And of course, you'd have to build an app around that would offer that functionality, but there's no way to do that natively, right?
It depends somewhat to be natively, but maybe we should also quickly just touch on what LNURL Auth is.
That's a great idea. Go ahead. You'll give a much more cogent explanation than I will.
I'll take the lead. Yeah, so what LNURL is it's one of the 4 sub-protocols of LNURL. And what LNURL Auth lets you do is that you can use your Lightning wallet like a login mechanism. So instead of using a username and password for a site, you can use your private keys inside your wallet to authenticate yourself to the site. So flipping the whole thing, like you're not storing a username and password on the service anymore. You're providing the credentials upfront to the service. So you don't store any sensitive information anymore on the server side, which is a huge benefit, seeing how like we have data leaks all the time with passwords and stuff being leaked. So that's what LNURL Auth prevents, because it's just using public key cryptography, just the same as Bitcoin and Lightning does. So yeah, so how it works is like in practice, how it works is that you just scan a QR code, just like you scan a QR code to pay, but instead you're logging into the site instead. So yeah, that's how it works. If I understand the question correctly, you wanted to tie that into a withdrawal code and stuff, but it's dependent on the service to implement this. But I can touch on a similar thing that we actually just recently made a specification of in the LNURL space, and that is like extensions for LNURL Pay. So let's say that you want to buy something, you make an order, then you use LNURL Pay to pay for the product. At the same time, you can tie that into an LNURL process. So you can authenticate yourself at the same time as you're paying. And the advantage of doing that is that you could then later on go back to that site and see your order by just logging in via LNURL Auth, if that makes sense. Yeah, so you don't when you pay for something, you don't need to register really. Just register while you're actually making the payment, and then use that information later on, like a week later. You're just logging into the site with your LNURL Auth public key, and then you have your order there again. So that's like a neat way to get rid of this way of registering on every site. Like you just do that while you're paying for the thing you want. So that's like a neat thing that we recently made to a specification in the LNURL space.
Love it. So I've used LNBits, for example, right? LNBits has a great little site, and you can run it on like an Umbrel or any other node implementation you want, or on your own server. And it has a feature where you can generate an LNURL withdraw QR code, where basically, I'm saying this for the audience, of course, you can do things like, all right, like scan this QR code, and then as soon as you scan it, you get 100 sats, and you can give that to people or have it up on your website or anything like that. And one of the things I thought was interesting is that it has an advanced LNURL withdraw code generator where you can set certain specifications, like it will auto generate new QR codes after each scan. And then there's also a delay so that it's only possible across all the instances of the QR codes to withdraw funds every 10 seconds or 25 seconds or whatever you want to set it at. Is that something that LNBits is implementing on its own, or is that part of the spec?
Yeah, I think that's the thing that LNBits are doing on their own, because like you have all the possibilities in the world with LNURL, because you can just program your own, not smart contract, but at least your contract. You can just have these kinds of rules. And yeah, I think this is something that they're doing themselves, as far as I know. I think it makes sense to have some kind of rate limiting as well. But touching on the LNBits withdraw things, is that they have a really cool thing where you can actually store your withdrawal code, and you can actually store that inside the Blixt and some other wallets. So why that makes sense is that, let's say you have money on an exchange. If they support LNURL withdraw, together with something called balance check, you can actually store your account from that exchange inside your wallet, in this case Blixt wallet. Then you can just withdraw. You can see your funds that you have in the exchange, and you can withdraw at any time inside your wallet. You don't need to leave the app, basically. It's a neat thing that's foreseeing in the future, which will be more popular, that you are just having a lot of your services inside your wallet. And that also ties into Lightning address. Like I have a contact list in Blixt with all my friends that you can just store inside the wallet, just like you could with other financial apps like Venmo and Cash App.
Interesting. And again, can you just say how currently that is relatively centralized, correct?
I guess it is centralized in the way that it depends on the LNURL service. It depends on how you look at it. LNURL itself is not centralized, but it depends on where you're actually retrieving the information. Like you can always set up your own things if you want to. Not everyone will, of course. It's a protocol, so to say.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. I guess I'm part of the reason that I'm asking is just because of all the incredible stuff that's been happening with Facebook and Instagram and everything else today. I can't help but love it because the internet was meant to be and was built to be a much more decentralized system than it is today. And so seeing this type of chaos where people are like, oh my gosh, how could this happen? How could there be a single point of failure that if it breaks, everything gets totally fucked?
Yeah.
Makes me just turn to them and say, Bitcoin?
Yeah, exactly. So I guess that's in favor of things like offers and stuff. But I think they have both LNURL and offer has their own use cases. I think it depends on what you want to do, basically.
So I don't know what the current timeline is. When will we be able to start seeing bolt12 offers in wallets and in the wild?
Yeah, that's a tough question, right? Because I think that C Lightning it's going fairly well for them, like implementing offers. Rust is the author of the offer spec, so it makes sense.
Yep.
What we want to see, though, is another implementation actually implementing offer, because that's like the conventional way that like Bolt Lightning specification gets made. Like you need 2 implementations generally to make something a specification in Lightning. So we'll see. I mean, does it look like we have LND does not have an implementation yet, at least, which is a bummer. I don't think eClearance and others have it either. So we'll see how it goes. I want to play around and test offers for Blixt as well, but it's difficult because like Blixt is based upon LND, so it really needs LND to support offers to make it work great. Like it needs to be in the actual Lightning implementation, so that's like a tricky situation there. So we'll see how it goes.
Have you thought about what would it take, or why haven't you considered putting C Lightning instead?
I decided to go with LND because when I had to make a decision when I started Blixt, basically, because it's heavily integrated. It's heavily integrated into LND right now. And the reason why I picked LND was because C Lightning did not have support for any like light client or SPV. Let's say it didn't support any kind of. It needed a full load to run C Lightning when I first started Blixt. So there was no choice, basically. I had to pick LND. So yeah, that's why I went that route. And I think in the end it paid off, of course. But that's why C Lightning recently is supporting light clients, I think. So.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. Have you thought about switching over, or at this point, is it basically it would just be such a monstrosity to migrate that it's not worth it?
Yeah, I've had some plans to support multiple backends, but it's difficult. But it will be cool, of course, but not today at least. I think because my focus right now is making stuff stable. You don't know what the future unfolds, so we will see what happens there. The thing is that all my code expects LND stuff, so it's difficult to shoehorn in C Lightning stuff, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Why do you think we don't see more wallets and services supporting LNURL? I think like LNURL with draw is becoming more and more popular, but like I don't know of any services. I'm sure there are some that use that support auth.
Yeah, it's a bummer. The LNURL support among wallets has been fairly great recently. Back in 1 year ago, or even 1.5 years ago, it was pretty abysmal in my opinion. But nowadays, we've almost got full support across the board, basically. At least for the like you have to do the different between the different, like you have the base protocols, then you have like extensions for those. But the support for the base protocols are fairly good nowadays for the wallets. For the services, I do not know, actually. It's a bummer. It's like a chicken egg problem, but we got the chicken now, basically, or the egg. Like we got wallet support. It's just the services that needs to get better here and start supporting LNURL, because it provides such better user experience to use LNURL, especially if you want to, let's say you want to withdraw money from somewhere. It's really a pain to copy the invoice code and paste it in and so on. With LNURL, you just scan it instead. Like it's nothing else you don't need to do. That's why they're lagging behind so much. At least I'm happy that the wallet support is really good at the moment across the board.
Yeah, it's been pretty exciting to see. Yeah, I've just been going through awesome LNURL, which is drafts. In fact, I'm going to post that now to the room. It's a fantastic set of resources that go through everything, the specific technology behind everything we're talking about, and it lists a ton of examples of wallets, websites that support the functionality and features, and it also has links to all of the specific specs that we're talking about, or not specs. What would you call these?
It's all called like sub protocols. Yeah,
sub protocols. There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, this awesome LNURL is a great resource. It lists all the different popular wallets, and as you said, if you want to try out LNURL, there are a ton of different services such that you can just try it on, basically. So yeah, that's a great resource to have.
Oh man, my sorry, I can't walk and chew gum at the same time apparently. My phone, I have to do this like arcane ritual in order to successfully be able to host this space without it crashing. And so I'm trying to go through it right now while I'm talking to you and then also posting this link, but it's proving difficult.
Bitcoiners, I am so excited to tell you about the Bitcoin 2022 conference. You guys, Bitcoin 2021 was absolutely a smash hit success. It was over 13,000 Bitcoiners coming together, breaking the barriers on who can come together and celebrate freedom, celebrate Bitcoin, and the energy was absolutely electric. Unfortunately, it was just oversubscribed. There's just people flowing out everywhere. And this year we are making the conference bigger and better. We are moving over to the Miami Beach Convention Center, and we are going to be throwing a massive 4-day festival for Bitcoin, celebrating Bitcoin, bringing together the greatest minds in Bitcoin and the greatest businesses in Bitcoin. And lastly, the culture of Bitcoin all together. We have a 4-day extravaganza planned for you guys for Bitcoin 2022. Day one is going to be Industry Day. It is a day where you can buy a special ticket in order to just mingle and make business deals happen. Day 2 and 3 is going to be a full-blown Bitcoin conference. This is our main conference. This is going to be on April 7th and 8th. And then lastly, we have the Sound Music Festival, Day 4. Imagine going to Coachella, but for Bitcoin. There's going to be very few talks. It's going to be all about the culture of Bitcoin. It's going to be all about hanging with your fellow plebs. It is going to be an absolutely amazing time. There's going to be Bitcoin musicians, Bitcoin artists, and all your favorite Bitcoiners, and just an amazing environment to party and just see it all, soak it all in, and to get people to realize that a Bitcoin world, a world filled with Bitcoin people doing Bitcoin things, is the world that they want to live in. That's what Bitcoin 2022 is all about. That is what the Bitcoin conference is all about. That's what Bitcoin Magazine is all about. So it is going to be a celebration of Bitcoin, the Bitcoiners, and this amazing movement that is going to make the world a better place. Go to b.tc/conference, learn more about the Bitcoin conference, learn more about all the amazing things that are happening in Miami around the Bitcoin conference, and buy your tickets. And guess what? If you buy your tickets with Bitcoin, you save $100 on all the tickets and $1,000 on the whale pass. So if you want the VIP pass, the big kahuna, if you buy with Bitcoin, you save $1,000. That's a lot of sats. So go and do it right now today. Don't wait. Prices are only going up. This is going to be a can't miss event. Bitcoiners, I want to tell you about the Deep Dive. The Deep Dive is Bitcoin Magazine's premium market intelligence newsletter. This is a no fluff, hard-hitting, incredible newsletter going deep into the market, helping you understand what's happening with derivatives, what's happening on chain, what's happening in macro, what's happening with the narrative, and what's happening with the tech. My man Dylan LeClaire is an absolute savant. He is making his name known in the Bitcoin community, getting shout outs left and right, getting on podcasts left and right, and him and his team are bringing you everything that you need to know about Bitcoin. You don't even have to be on Bitcoin Twitter. You can ignore every other newsletter. This is the newsletter to rule them all. Go over to members.bitcoinmagazine.com, sign up today, and if you use promo code MACRO, you get a full month for free. You have nothing to lose. What are you waiting for? Sign up, see the incredible work that Dylan and his team are putting out. And if you don't like it, just unsubscribe. You don't pay a dime. But if you do, you know, it's going to be well worth the sats in investment in understanding Bitcoin and gaining the confidence to continue to invest in Bitcoin and making the right moves around Bitcoin. And it's going to be well worth every single Satoshi. Again, can't recommend it enough. That is members.bitcoinmagazine.com, promo code macro. Do it today.
Shifting away from offers and LNURL, what else are you super excited about in terms of things that are being developed in Bitcoin, the Lightning Network?
Yeah, I'm really excited to see Taproot getting activated. Yeah, the enthusiasm behind, like, I remember back in the spring, summer with the Taproot watch, right? Like, lots of people were excited for Taproot. So it's great to actually see it getting activated fairly soon. I think it's somewhere in November it will get activated in mainnet. And we'll see what unfolds after that. I hope that we will eventually see the improvement to Lightning called L2.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a big one because that helps. I mean, I'm not an expert in L2, but it helps a lot regarding many different things, especially if you want to have Watchtowers and stuff in Lightning, and it will provide huge improvements to the Lightning network.
Did you did you say Watchtowers or Water Towers?
Oh, yes, Watchtowers.
Oh, man, I got so excited. I thought there was like this new thing that I'd never heard of. It's like, does it store liquidity somehow and then you can distribute it back out into the network without having to run your own routing node? Yeah, and again, I need to stop saying just for the audience. I think that's implied, but I was going back through one of these recordings and I said it probably 10, 15, maybe 20 times. But a Watchtower you can basically run a Watchtower service on a node, because if you are running a Lightning node, you have to have essentially constant uptime, because you have these 2 of 2 multi-sig contracts with other nodes. And if your node goes offline, and essentially what's happening is a Lightning channel is, an oversimplification would be to describe it as a bar tab. So if every time you send funds over a Lightning channel, the balance of the channel shifts to your remote peer. And then when they send you funds or they route funds from their end through you, the balance of the channel shifts back towards you. And then at any time, either one of you can do what's called a cooperative close, where you basically decide that you're going to close the channel and net out the balances, and then you get what you're owed and they get what they're owed. But if you go offline, then in theory, someone can essentially publish a false state or an out-of-date state, and they can basically claim that you owe them more money than you do. And there are very strong incentives to prevent people from doing this. One of those is that there's a long delay that gets set that basically, when somebody tries to force close, and because you're offline, they have to wait a significant period of time. And during that period of time, if you either come back online and then your node will immediately broadcast the actual channel state, which they've also signed, so then it becomes really clear that they were trying to cheat you. Or if you have what's called a Watchtower setup, where basically there is another node that you are updating constantly with your channel state. And then what happens is, even if you go down and the other person tries to screw you, the Watchtower will automatically basically broadcast what's called the justice transaction. And then when that happens, either if you come back online before the timeout elapses, or if you have a Watchtower set up, they will post a justice transaction immediately. And then not only do you get your funds back, but you get all of the funds in the channel back. So the person who tried to screw you over, they forfeit all the liquidity that was on their side. So there's a really strong incentive to not cheat anybody on the Lightning Network for that reason. So you don't even actually have to have a Watchtower set up, though you should. Just the threat of Watchtowers is enough of a disincentive to prevent people from trying to cheat each other. So that's what a Watchtower is. But go ahead, would you add anything to that?
No, I thought it was a good explanation. I just want to briefly touch on why, with L2, I think it makes Watchtowers more feasible, because it doesn't need, the Watchtower doesn't need to store as much data for its users than in the current way of how Lightning works. So that's why I'm excited about L2 regarding the Watchtower things, at least, because it scales better, so to say, if that makes sense.
Can you describe what L2 is?
Oh,
you can say no.
Yeah, I kind of can. I haven't thought of it in a pedagogic way, I guess. It depends on cutting out transaction middle, basically. You can just shortcut, but it's really difficult to explain. Sorry, I'm not sure. Maybe someone can request to speak and have a better explanation than I can do. But
yeah, I'm terrible at describing L2, but what I will do is I will read the Bitcoin Optech summary of what it is. Bitcoin Optech explains it as L2 is a proposed enforcement layer for Lightning that allows any later channel state to replace any earlier channel state. Although L2 can be used with a penalty mechanism similar to the one used with existing Lightning channels, that's to say the justice transaction, L2 doesn't need the penalty mechanism in order to be secure. If L2 is used without a penalty mechanism, there's no harm in publishing an old state except that it costs transaction fees to publish. This makes it less dangerous to try to restore a Lightning node from a backup after a sudden failure or some other problem. It also makes it much simpler for 3 or more parties to open a single Lightning channel together, enabling features such as channel factories. Another consequence of Lightning channels without penalties is that Lightning nodes using L2 only need to store the latest state. For certain devices that lack large amounts of persistent storage, for example, hardware wallets, they may not be able to store enough data to effectively use penalty-based Lightning. But as long as they can store a few kilobytes, they should be able to use L2-based Lightning.
Yeah, precisely. And that applies, the last thing that applies to Watchtowers as well. It only needs to store the latest state of things. It doesn't need to store commitment. So that's why it scales better in general with Watchtowers.
Yeah, I had a funny experience. And again, when you're using the Lightning Network, as of right now, you have to store the entire history. So what ends up happening is your channel DB can get very large very quickly. And especially if you are a large routing node, your hard drive can become, or your SSD, which is what you should be running a routing node on, can become full way faster than you thought it would because you have to store the entire history of the channel states. And if you make the mistake that I did, which is where you spin up your Watchtower service and then you have 10, 20, 30 plebs connecting to your Watchtower, it'll happen very quickly. So this will allow a much more economical and efficient way of storing channel information.
Yeah, definitely. And it's kind of, we're not in a hurry, but it will be good to get it fairly soon here because El Salvador is still rolling ahead with their stuff there, and Lightning in general is growing rapidly. But we'll see how the future unfolds here. I hope that we'll get L2 sooner than later, at least. We'll see.
For sure.
Because it's such a good upgrade to the network in general, and it also helps, as you touched on briefly when you read from the Bitcoin OpenTech letter. It's safer for mobile wallets as well, because let's say that you want to restore Blixt on a new phone. What you could do with L2, you can more securely just copy the whole state over to the new phone and be rest assured that your funds will not get slashed. Because right now with the penalty system, you could in theory fool yourself and try to run your new phone on an old state, by mistake, it's not intentionally. Yep. And that could mess things up for you. So in those cases, L2 helps a lot as well for mobile users. So it's not only for Watchtowers and routing and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. When all of us, and Mads, who's in the audience, is one of the earliest, part of the PlebNet founding crew as well. But we all learned the hard way that when you're using a Lightning node, you have to constantly be backing up your channel state. So every time your channel state changes, you got to back it up. And initially, this is called a static channel backup. And I initially thought that this was all of your channels, that if you lost access to, if your node went down or crashed, you could just restore your fully functioning node to a new installation or implementation. And in fact, that's not the case. All a static channel backup does is it allows you to essentially beg all of your yeah, you basically are asking them to force close the channels for you, because you can't risk that you have the wrong state and it's going to get totally messed up.
Yeah, it's game theory thing there, I think, that they're deploying. So yeah, static backups, they're great, but they're also not so convenient for mobile users, because if you want to change your phone in some wallets, you will need to close your channels, which is not very convenient. So here is where L2 can help a lot, in my opinion, for user experience. Because then you can do the copy of your channel database, but you can be sure that you won't get screwed by doing that, basically.
Yeah. And one of the things that's been, to take a brief diversion, that's been so exciting to see in the Lightning Network more recently, and then especially what we were hoping for and what we successfully built out with PlebNet, is these actual relationships that exist outside of the Lightning Network. When members of, the community, when their node went down, they literally, or when this happens, they will just post in PlebNet and be like, hey, my node's messed up. Please don't force close on me. I'm trying to reboot and everything. Or if my node goes down, I'll get 5 or 10 messages from people that are like, your node's down. And a lot of the times I won't even know about it. And so when you have these community-based groups that are forming these connections over the Lightning Network when they're running their nodes, it allows for a level of shared learning and much faster adoption than you'd see otherwise. And I think it's probably the way that, or I think it is one way that the Lightning Network will continue to grow very rapidly. Shared learning groups, out of band communications.
Definitely. I think the PlebNet phenomenon is amazing. Like it's so huge as well. It's great to see. So yeah, I definitely agree on that point.
Yeah. And I think ideally that wouldn't be the case. Ideally, everything would be native, so to speak.
Yeah.
That's the way it is.
Yeah.
Mads, thanks for joining us on stage. How you doing?
Hey, good. Okay, I was wondering, are static channel backups still the best option if your node goes down?
I would say so. Yeah. It's the way to go, right? If you like, preferably the node wouldn't go down, but I guess it is still the de facto standard for dealing with these kinds of things. And it's also like static channel backups is also, I think it relies a bit on game theory as well, if I understand correctly. But yeah, it's for routing nodes and stuff. I think if you are a routing node, I think static channel backups is the way to go. Yeah, I will say so. And
because
as a touch on,
the only way you can use the other backup is if you actually back up and then immediately shut your node down.
Oh, yeah. That's why it's scary with the penalty system. And that's why I'm still torn over implementing it for my own wallet, Blixt, because I don't want my users to be screwed by them, like by mistake in some way, copying an old state, basically. So these things will be much better if we move to L2 standard. But yeah, but at the same time, I myself has actually managed to copy over the channel database file and migrate with just copying the database file. That was for my routing node, that is. But yeah, it's scary. You need to be absolutely sure that it's closed down and not talking to the Lightning Network at all, just completely inactive in that way. But yeah.
Yeah, I did the same thing recently, and I felt like Samuel L. Jackson in Jurassic Park, when they have to go in and restart the electrical fences or they're all going to die. It was terrifying.
Yeah, it's scary, actually, yeah. So I did that actually quite recently when I moved the hosting provider, because I didn't want to close down all my channels that were opened. So I just copied over, and it worked fine as well. You just need to be absolutely sure that it's completely closed, not started in any capacity way.
Yeah, that's the trick, right? Making sure you're not going to break everything.
But I know that, I'm not sure exactly if some Lightning wallets are actually, like mobile wallets, that is, utilizing the copy method, so to say. Because I think we touched on that last week, if I recall correctly.
Yep.
That Breeze might do something like that. But I'll probably check with them and see what they do. But yeah, I still think it's scary to copy, especially if it's for my users. Like I myself can get screwed, but yeah, it's scary.
Yeah, I don't know the specifics of Breeze, but it definitely, the only way to do the backups is you have to connect it to Google Drive. Maybe they support Dropbox on another system, but it's basically just constantly updating it.
Yeah, and then that's not like you can get screwed there.
Of course.
Yeah, so that was scary.
Yeah, I totally agree. What else? Should we pull some people up and take some questions?
Yeah,
let's do it. Good. If you're in the audience and you have a question, take a moment to focus your mind. And one thing that I notice is that when people come up and ask questions, they'll sometimes give like a very long story about that sort of builds up into their question. You can just leave all that out and just ask the question so we can go as rapidly as possible and give you the answer you want. So let's go for it. I've got one single request. Bossman Jones, let's do this. Please don't be someone who's just trying to get up on stage and scream their name or talk about banana bread. You don't do either of those things. And he's gone. Oh, he's back. All right. That did not go as expected. Does anybody else have a question, or is everybody like totally intimidated by the highly technical topics we're going through? You shouldn't be. The only way that we all learned it was by asking questions that didn't make any sense and articulating them poorly, and then having people correct us. And
just ask a simple question as well. It got quite fairly technical today, but we can go back to basics as well. No problem with that.
What was the reason for the LND update today?
You're cutting out, but I think we got the gist of your question. I'm actually not sure.
I didn't. You talked about the vulnerability that got posted today. I think I read it briefly. It seems like it's mostly affecting like routing nodes and stuff, because I immediately updated my the Blixt LSP node, so that's up to the latest. And I've also already published new versions to Play Store and App Store. It seems like some kind of dust, like Satoshi dust attack. There have been recent attacks similar to this as well before, I think. So it's like building up on top of the dust limit, I think it's called. But it seems like situational, but I'm not sure exactly how feasible the attack is. But I will say that it is at least critical, and everyone should update. That's my understanding of reading the actual report. But I don't think we will see any attacks in the wild. But let's hope not, at least.
Interesting.
It also affects perhaps I'm not sure if it has all, but it seems all different implementations, at least the popular ones. There is like a protocol level vulnerability, which is scary, actually.
And what is the worst case scenario for this vulnerability?
I think, if I understand it correctly, it's something like you will commit. I might be completely wrong here, so don't take my word for this. I think you screw yourself by committing too much transaction fee when closing the channel or something like that. But I might be wrong here, so if someone can just request you to speak and maybe have a better explanation. But from my reading is that you will commit too much fee, basically just screwing your whole channel, the funds you have in it. But something like that at least.
All right. Asked and answered. I agree with everything Hampus said. I think that's it. I think that's all we got. No more questions, no more raised hands. I feel like we have not only gone through Blixt Wallet, bolt11, bolt12,
lots of heavy topic. Yeah.
But also I feel like we've ended world hunger. The conclusion I'm choosing to draw, given the fact that there are no more hands raised right now. And on that note, I think I'm going to close out the room. Is there anything else, Hampus, that you want to let people know about, that you want to make us all aware of before we...
Check out Blixt Wallet if you like. I'm fairly active on Telegram if you need help, and just try it out. Or any other Lightning wallet for that, in that case as well. The time to try out Lightning is now, because the fees are low, the adoption is rapidly growing right now. So it's a really good time to get started and try it out, at least. As I said, especially since the fees are so low now. So it's a good time to get bootstrapped into the new monetary system.
I could not agree more.
Can y'all hear me?
We can.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry for my being on a run and in a storm, but everything that y'all said.
We can't hear you anymore.
I was trying to say.
We can't hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you now. Try one more time. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, if you're wondering about the Lightning Network, you can learn more at plebnet. I will say, if you want to run your own node. But thank y'all for the room. Y'all can hear me. I'm sorry.
Yes. And if you want to join plebnet, the URL is plebnet.org, and that will send you to the Telegram group. There's an amazing wiki that thousands of people have contributed to. Mads and I and about 15 other people got together several months back, maybe as many as 4 or 5, and decided we wanted to build the plebnet. And it's been an incredible journey. And the people that are there and there now are doing the Lord's work, salt of the earth.
And if you want to try out Blixt, you can go to the website, which is blixtwallet.com, which is BLIXT wallet.com. And then you can just try the interactive demo wallets that is on that site. It's fairly fun to just try it out. Then if you like the wallet, you can just download it for Android or iOS.
Yep. I would highly encourage everyone to do so because, again, as I was saying at the top, the thing that really struck me about Blixt is that it does a phenomenal job of showing you detailed highly technical information about the Lightning Network, but also displaying it in such a way that you do not have to be tracking on everything that's going on in order to effectively use the wallet.
Thank you for having me. This was a time, I guess we touched on a lot of deep topics, but yeah, it was a great time to delve into stuff.
All right. You'll have to come back soon.
Definitely.
All right. On that note, I'm going to close this out.